So I'm standing here with Steve from Wisdom Audio in their demo room here at Home Cinema Show in Lund, Sweden. So Steve, tell me about your system.
Okay, we have a fabulous Wisdom Audio system here. It consists of a mixture of line source speakers for all the main channels, which is a very unique technology. Yeah. Wisdom Audio are famous for producing speakers using a particular type of technology, yep, which is called planar magnetic. Yeah. Planar magnetic technology is unlike any other speaker drive unit that's available. We use a thin film, and I've actually got one here that I can show you. So it's a thin film technology. Yep. There's one there.
So and then like this.
We have on the back there you can see the traces, which are actually the voice coil of the speaker.
Yeah.
And then this is tensioned on all sides. Yep. And then we put magnets front and back to create a magnetic field, and that's your motor structure. Yeah. Now, all of our Wisdom Audio speakers use this type of technology, the thin film technology. And the reason we use this is because it's very lightweight, so it has very fast transient response. And it has amazing clarity. So we're looking at speed and detail, something you can't get with conventional drive units. Yeah. So what this is, it's a polymer film. And then on the back of this is effectively a flattened out voice coil. So the amplifier connects into here. Signal goes through the wires. And then we tension this on all four sides. And the tensioning is critical, like any musical instrument, a drum skin for instance, the tensioning is very, very critical. We get the tensioning right, and then we apply magnets on the front or the back, or sometimes in both, and that creates our drive unit. So I was talking about the tensioning. This particular material can withstand a huge amount of heat without losing its tension. That's one of the most important things with this type of film. And as I said to you earlier, we can build these as regular point source drive units, or we can build them into larger scale planar drivers, which we can build then into something called line source. And the line source technology, as we said, has a lot of benefits over point source in terms of power over distance and better clarity as well, because we're keeping the sound focused as a beam rather than a point source speaker where it's radiating in all directions. It means that every row in your cinema, even if it's a stereo room actually, as you get closer or further away, you get very, very good consistency on the volume level. Yeah. And that is very important. So for instance, in a cinema like this, we've got 4 rows. Yep. It means someone on the front row can have exactly the same experience as someone on the back row. Yeah. So instead of being blasted on the front row, you can now have a very, very good experience there and on the back. Yeah. So Wisdom Audio produce both point source and line source. Yeah. And in this room, we have line source on all the horizontal loudspeakers. Yep. So we have 3 of our Sage Cinema Line 2 line source speakers behind the screen for LCR. At the back, we have our L75s. They're the models at the back here. Yep. They're also line source. Yep. Overhead, we have point source speakers. You have to use point source for your height channels. Yep. So these are our P2M models.
Looks a little bit like ribbon, but it's still
it's still this actual planar magnetic drive unit using that. Yep. While we're talking about this, one of the benefits of these type of films is they cover a very, very wide frequency range. So we can cover anything from 600 hertz to 20 kilohertz with one drive unit. Yeah. So instead of having a mid-range and a tweeter, we can cover a very, very wide bandwidth with these. Yeah. It's very important because now our crossover is much lower down than it would be in a conventional loudspeaker. Yep. And now we're out of that important vocal range. So we're crossing over much, much lower. When we build these drive units on a larger scale and make them taller, we can then cross over at 350 hertz. So we cover 350 hertz to 20 kilohertz with one drive unit. Yeah. And our largest speakers, which are called the Wisdom series, we actually work from 80 hertz to 20 kilohertz.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And
what's the power handling on?
These are phenomenal. So drive units like this can take an awful lot of power. The voice coil traces are actually quite large. Yep. So they handle the current. And secondly, because it's a large surface area, it radiates the heat. It can get rid of the heat. That's normally the thing that kills off loudspeakers. The voice coils will break because they overheat. So we can dissipate a huge amount of heat from one of these units. So typically, by the time we get to a line source speaker, you've got something like 600 watts continuous power handling, which is phenomenal. Plus, they have very high sensitivity. If you're looking at the Sage Cinema line here, 95, 96 dB sensitivity for 1 watt input. So very high sensitivity, very high efficiency, and with huge power handling. So it can handle huge amounts of dynamics without distorting or clipping, which is very important. So we've got the headroom there, but also the clarity. So if you just want to play it at low levels and have hi-fi quality sound, you can also do that and achieve that with our speakers.
Cool. So in this room you have your speakers like that, and you have 2 big subwoofers at the back.
One at the front in this room, one at the back. So Wisdom Audio use transmission line speakers, and it's actually a special version called Regenerative transmission lines, or RTL. I've just explained our speakers are very fast and they're very articulate. And the last thing we want is for subwoofers to be slow and boomy. So RTL technology enables us to have very fast, articulate subwoofers that keep up with the speed of our main speakers. Because overall, it's one large package. The subwoofers and the main speakers, they have to blend together. So we use RTL technology. We've got our largest subwoofers here. It's a model called the STS. It's phenomenal. It's a dual 15-inch transmission line. And because with the way the transmission line works, you get the power from the front of the drive unit, and you get the power from the back of the drive unit as well. So it's effectively
phase it in.
In phase.
In phase.
So you're effectively doubling up the surface area of the drive unit. So these are equivalent to a dual 18-inch.
Cool.
They have 100 dB sensitivity, which means you don't need huge amounts of power to make them work, but they do take a lot of power and handle huge amounts of dynamics. But the most important thing is, unlike most large subwoofers, which are slow and boomy, these are very, very fast and articulate and clean. You can play music on these, and they're just perfect subwoofers. But when you want to play movies with high dynamics, loud explosions, these are the ones. So we have 2. We have one at the front of the room, one at the back. When we do these shows, we spend a lot of time looking at where the subwoofers need to go, so that everyone has a good experience with the bass. Quite often just putting the subs at the front of the room would mean that only one row of seats has good bass and the other row is in a cancellation area. So in this room we've got one front, one back. It means actually all these rows have very, very similar bass levels. And that's so everyone now gets a really good experience.
I want to listen to it. And also in this room, there's Trinnov calibration, 103 room. That helps.
It helps, So
but you start with a good speaker, of course.
Yes.
And then you add
start with a very good speaker, and then the Trinnov calibration then will just will be the icing on the cake. But the important thing is to start off with a very, very good loudspeaker. Ideally, very good room treatment as well. That is so important. Of course, here we have no room treatment. The walls are made of cardboard, and so we have to rely a little bit more heavily on actual room tuning by the Trinnov. Some of that's automatic, some of it's manual. I'm still tuning the system as we're going, and we're getting better and better performance from it, which you'll hear in a minute. But the Trinnov is a very important part of our system that we're using today. We're using all Wisdom amplifiers. So we design and build our own power amplifiers. The ones we have here are our 500 watt per channel models. It's a digital amplifier with a huge toroidal power supply, analog power supply. So it has very, very high current delivery, and these things will play 500 watts all day long. Very high dynamics. They're flat stackable. You can have I'm sure you'll show a picture of them. So did you say
Class I, Class A, Class D? Class D.
Class D. And we design and build our own amplifiers specifically for use with our loudspeakers.
Perfect.
So we get the speed, dynamics, clarity, and reliability as well. So that's very, very important.
So Steve, thanks a lot for your information, and I'm going to enjoy listening to your speakers.
Have a demonstration, can't wait. Yeah.
And if you're interested in more videos, please subscribe to my channel and ping that little notification clock and stick around. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Take care.